CFTO TV, Channel 9 in Toronto, Cable 8. Night Beat News with Bill Hutchison and Kate Wheeler.
Good evening. Authorities still unable to answer the perplexing question tonight: what made a car plunge into Lake Ontario Saturday evening?
One question has been answered. Who were the 4 people who died in the car? Jim Junkin has the details.
There was little rescuers could do. The dead are 2.5-year-old Daniela Goodtrack, her grandmother, 61-year-old Sandia Ray, both of Langport Court, Mississauga, 56-year-old Mina Kashanian of Joymar Drive, Mississauga, described as the little girl's nanny, and 38-year-old Suka Rita Roy of Paisley Boulevard, a family friend. Police say Daniela was being cared for by her grandmother while her parents were away in the Far East on business. Just before 5 last night, this Mazda somehow wound up in 14 feet of water in Lake Ontario at Lake Promenade Park near Cothra and the lakeshore. The car mounted a curb at high speed, crashed into a flower garden, over a shrub-covered hill, snapping off a tree, across a sidewalk, and out into the lake near the Port Credit Yacht Club. Nothing to indicate foul play at the moment, but just the same, some very interesting information coming in to police. At least one witness reports seeing the Mazda coming into the park at a high rate of speed, crashing over speed bumps, almost losing control. How it could happen was very much on the minds of people in the park today.
Would the person have a heart attack or something, or did the accelerator stick, or why in the parking lot like that would a person go into the lake?
Police admit it could be days before they have answers to all the troubling questions in this case. Jim Junkin, CFTO News, Mississauga.
As many as 20,000 people walked through downtown Toronto today in the 8th annual AIDS Walk. It began this morning at Nathan Phillips Square. Children and adults from all walks of life took part. Organizer Ann Rosenfield says the turnout has been building each year.
The first years we had, our few thousand of people, real enthusiastic group. Today we've got substantially more than 13,000 people, which is way ahead of what we had last year.
For many, including Larry Peloso, there's a personal motivation to walk.
AIDS is not going away. A friend told me yesterday they tested HIV positive. Someone who's, a citizen in this city nowadays, it's not going away, and I think we have to continue to walk and march.
The Toronto Walk is expected to raise in excess of $800,000 for the fight against AIDS.
Dr. Bernard Lau was buried today. His family, friends, and patients say they have lost someone who really tried to make a difference. Tom Hayes reports.
Coming to Canada, he was so excited that he can realize his dream of achieving the goal of being a doctor.
Dr. Bernie Lau's brother Ching in the gray coat broke down as he helped carry his brother's coffin. Dr. Lau's wife, Kathy, held a picture of her husband. They were married 7 years ago, but they have been together more than 18 years. 400 people packed the North York Funeral Home today. Family, friends, and patients of the man they all call remarkable.
I think he was a wonderful man. He was unique. He was just unique. He used to take part in his patient's life.
He seemed to be more than a doctor to all of his patients.
To us, he was a family member. We've lost a dear friend.
Dr. Lau's life ended when he was gunned down Tuesday in his Etobicoke office. His life began in northern China, and it was a poor health care system that inspired the young boy to become a doctor.
The doctors there are always too busy. They don't have time to talk to you. He got touched extremely, and he would vow one day that if he had the opportunity, he would change all that.
Dr. Lau was described as dedicated, a doctor who still made house calls and who would often pay for his patients' medication if they couldn't afford to. He also traveled to help the people of Malaysia and Zimbabwe.
And I don't think we were able to find someone to replace Dr. Lau.
Tom Hayes, CFTO News.
A tourist in Niagara captured some dramatic footage of a capsized boat going over the American Falls this morning. You can just see the yellow fiberglass boat's hull bobbing in the rapids above the falls. Authorities aren't sure if there was anyone in the boat when it capsized. The boat disintegrated when it hit the rocks below. Police patrolled the lower Niagara River today looking for any wreckage or a body.
An extra police patrolling North and West Streetsville tonight after the discouraging news that phone service there could be out until Friday. A crew working on a water main didn't call before they started digging Saturday morning. The result, 9 main lines cut, thousands of phones out in the north and west ends of Streetsville. I spoke with Bell Canada's Irene Shimoda.
The damage is more extensive than we originally anticipated, so we feel that it might be as many as 22,000 residents and businesses who have been affected in the north and west area of Streetsville. Starting tomorrow morning, there will be residents and businesses who have phone service, and so we would like people to check their phones by just picking the phone up and checking for dial tone.
Here are the exchanges that are offline. 542-567-812-813-819-821-826 and 858. Temporary telephone facilities have been set up in 3 trailers at the corner of Tannery and Queen Streets. Local calls are free.
Metro's Transportation Department warning commuters tonight to expect delays on Danforth Avenue for the next 6 weeks. If you use the Danforth to get to work in the morning, you'd better start planning an alternative route. Major road construction will begin in the morning from Pape to Broadview. That will mean a reduction to just 1 lane in each direction. A century of history on Scugog Island today as the Fall Fair falls back in time. And no country fair would be complete without a barn dance. The event at the Scugog Shores Museum east of Port Perry reflected accurately the sort of fair enjoyed in these surroundings a century ago. And like a modern fair, it featured the latest in household appliances. This device stripped the kernels from corn cobs. This one, most of the time, peeled apples, which were later sun-dried. Apple cider technology involved a fair bit of elbow grease, but the end product was worth it all. Kids' sports included stilt walking or some Huckleberry Finn-style tree climbing. Sarah Willits has her preference.
I like the stilts and the hamburgers are good.
Under the tents, local jams and pickles competed for the judges' nod, with last winter's whittling next door. And the folks who live out in the bush brought in their furs for barter before the winter sets in.
5,000 people pounding the pavement today in the Toronto Half Marathon. That's Steve Jacobs and Lane Fraser at the starting line. Unfortunately, we couldn't find them at the finish line, but we are assured they completed the distance. The Half Marathon is Canada's largest long-distance race, and it's part of a series of international class races held between March and September each year. It's open to both competitors as well as completers. Canadian Olympians Bruce Deacon, May Allison and Danuta Bartosek battled it out against international rivals in the event. It's also a major fundraiser for the Marvell Koffler Breast Center at Mount Sinai Hospital. Runners have raised more than $300,000 to date in the annual Toronto Half Marathon events.
A tremendous show of support today for the Canadian Paraplegic Association. More than $118,000 has been raised in the 2nd annual wheelchair relay held at Yorkdale Shopping Centre. That's twice as much as was raised last year. The Maple Leafs are among the supporters. The event was inspired by Rick Hansen's Man in Motion tour. And students walking the line to promote sober driving. The walk began at the North Toronto Memorial Community Centre on Eglinton Avenue at 11 this morning. Hundreds took part in the 3.6-kilometer walk that wrapped up with a carnival. Ken Shaw was the grand marshal of the parade.
You know, it's a joke until he can't find the key, and then it's not funny anymore.
I really think it's about time you told him where that key was.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Ken can just sit tight for another couple of days. Back with more in a moment. Stay with us.
I'm Sharon Caddy. Some showers on the way tonight. I have the full forecast coming up.
Well, one of our studio cameraman, Wayne Summers, is marking 31 years here on the job today. He's the one moving that camera right now.
Smooth.
Very, very practiced, lots of experience. And he didn't even complain that he had to come in and work on a beautiful day like this.
No, I think the weather actually was to celebrate this anniversary. So it was wonderful. Unfortunately, we are heading into some wet weather. So a little bit of rain on the way tonight.
It's over, Wayne.
That's it for your celebration. Now, while we're expecting some wet weather, drier weather has been the problem in Yuba County, California. That's just north of Sacramento. A massive forest fire is raging. Air tankers, helicopters, bulldozers being used by some 1,400 firefighters to battle this blaze. At least 20 homes have been destroyed. More than 2,000 hectares have burned. Unfortunately, dry conditions and high winds continue to feed the fire. And so far, more than 1,000 people have been forced to evacuate the area. Well, closer to home, we have showers on the way tonight. Cooler weather to follow, more fall-like as we see now as we head to the Earth Watch. And our flight, which will take us up into the American Midwest, into this band of cloud and showers. This is the weather that we have approaching through the overnight hours tonight and into tomorrow. As we fly into it, you'll see it's mainly cloudy. There are some showers throughout. Slight chance of a thunderstorm every once in a while. Into southern Ontario, the cloud has been continuing to build tonight. Right now overcast, and the showers are slowly starting to come our way. Today's beautiful weather, though, came courtesy of that ridge of high pressure that has continued to move off to the east. But the ridge extended to the west, kept us sunny today. Then you see that next system moving through, a low pressure system and cold front. Showers once we get to the other side of it, some unsettled weather for a couple of days. As we check the forecast now for Toronto and most of southern Ontario. Cloudy skies tonight, some showers through the evening and overnight, low near 12. Tomorrow, cloudy with sunny periods. Windy, isolated afternoon showers and 18 degrees. For Barrie Huronia, cloudy with a chance of some showers tonight, 11 for a low. Tomorrow, cloudy with sunny periods, windy, isolated afternoon showers, and up to 18 degrees. The 5-day forecast, showers tonight should end in the morning, leaving us with cloudy days, some sunny periods, chance of isolated afternoon showers, and 18 degrees. Tuesday, cloudy and windy, scattered showers, and 16. Wednesday, partly cloudy and 15. Then Thursday, it's back to the sunshine and 16. Right now, overcast and 17 degrees. The wind from the southeast at 6 kilometers an hour, barometer 100.2 and falling slowly. And the relative humidity 82%. So the chance of some showers tonight, then unsettled for a couple of days.
All right, thanks, Sharon.
George is here with some sports now.
Yeah, and Blue Jay season comes to an end. What a year it would have been without Roger Clemens. You don't even want to think about that, how bad it could have been. Bill, Kate, good evening. The end of one season and planning already for next year for the Blue Jays. Word from Skydome earlier today that 4 coaches have been let go. Gone are Nick Leyva, Alfredo Griffin, and Willie Upshaw. Pitching coach Mel Queen, who filled in after Cito Gaston was fired, will stay on, at least for now, until a new manager is hired. And on the field today, Roger Clemens gunning for a club record 22nd victory and a nice start here, striking out Mo Vaughn for a 1-2-3 first inning. The Jays take the lead in the second 1-1. Sam Wells smacks this up the middle all the way to the wall, a triple, cashing Jose Cruz Jr. 1-0 for the Jays. Later in the game, the Rockets strikes out Mike Benjamin, his 292nd strikeout, passing Randy Johnson. So Clemens wins the pitcher's triple crown, wins ERA and strikeouts. In the ninth, Jays down by 1. Sean Green with a 2-run double, cashing Jacob Brumfield and Shannon Stewart. Jays win 3-2. Dan Plesac gets the win in relief. Clemens finishes at 21-7. The Jays finish at 76-86.
It was high, and he wasn't going to leave me out there much longer. And you know, coming off, I was pretty emotional, and was able to keep it somewhat in control, and come in here and went in the coach's room by myself and had a chance to reflect for about 10 minutes, and then came back out to high-five everybody. What a great way to finish. And but just owe a lot of thanks to my teammates. You know, they played hard.
You know, hopefully one more year, but if it doesn't happen, I mean, what happened today, the fans, I mean, they were tremendous. You know, to stand up and cheer the whole at bat, it gives you goosebumps. But you know, I thank the fans for all that, and hopefully we'll do it one more time.
And with all the playoff spots locked up, not much left to decide on the final day of play. National League action today, Cards and Cubs. Mark McGuire clubbed this to center field, his 58th home run of the season. Cards win the game 2-1. Meantime, Ken Griffey Jr. was blanked in Seattle's game with Oakland, so McGuire wins baseball's home run title with 58, 3 short of the record. The playoffs begin Tuesday. The Formula One Championship trophy could be covered with a maple leaf at the end of the season. Jacques Villeneuve, the winner of today's German Grand Prix, and as a result, a commanding 9-point lead on Michael Schumacher with just 2 races left. Villeneuve started second today behind birthday boy Mika Hakkinen, but fell to third as David Coulthard charged early. Villeneuve's biggest scare bumping his teammate going into the first corner, which is also where Michael Schumacher's day came to an end after he and brother Ralf Schumacher collided. Michael dropped out 2 laps later. Still third at mid-race, a break for Villeneuve on lap 40. Coulthard's Mercedes engine blows, and 2 laps later, Hakkinen's engine does the same thing, giving the lead to Villeneuve, and he cruised to his 7th win of the season and 11th career victory. Jean Alesi was second. Heinz-Harald Frentzen finished third.
Meantime, at the Fontana Superspeedway in California, Paul Tracy with a short day as he hit the concrete early. He was all right. Greg Moore pacing himself most of the way, and he takes the lead from pole sitter Mauricio Gugelmin. But for Moore, the day ended 10 laps from the end when his engine smokes out. That gave the win to Mark Blundell, his third of the year. CFL action in the league's best. The 11-2 Argos in Winnipeg today to face the 3-10 Blue Bombers. Not much of a doubt how this one would turn out. Huge first half for the Argos as Doug Flutie hands the ball to the pinball, who does just that. Finding no room to the right, he bounces out of trouble and takes it into the end zone left. It's an awfully long 5-yard score, 7-0 for the Argos. Then it's Doug Flutie hooking up with Darryl Mitchell from 10 yards out, 14-7. Later in the quarter, Flutie goes in himself, a 9-yard run for his third touchdown of the season, 24-7 Argos. And before the half comes to a close, Flutie hooking up with Mitchell again, 35-yard score, 39-point half. The Argos crushed the Bombers 41-9, the final score in this one from Winnipeg. Two others from the CFL today. In Regina, the Riders stunned Edmonton 29-15. Edmonton falls to 8-6. The Riders are 6-8. And in Calgary, Kelvin Anderson with 2 touchdowns as the Stamps crushed Montreal 43-22. Just 3 teams undefeated now in the NFL. Denver and Tampa Bay winners today. Jacksonville lost while the Patriots enjoyed a week off. With Week 5 highlights, here's CFTO's Claude Fagg.
At the Silverdome, the Lions trailed the Packers 6-0 before erupting for 17 points in the second quarter. The first 7 on this 45-yard interception return by Reggie Brown, giving Detroit the lead. Then later in the quarter, Scott Mitchell hooks up with Pete Kriplowitz from 4 yards out. The Lions upset the Pack 26-15. The unbeaten Broncos got a scare from the winless Falcons. John Elway threw for 243 yards and 3 touchdowns against his former coach Dan Reeves, including the 65-yarder to Shannon Sharp. The Broncos go 5-0 after grounding the Falcons 29-21. In Tampa, the surprising Buccaneers also improved to 5-0, but it wasn't easy. The visiting Cardinals took an 18-12 lead on this 42-yard interception return by Enos Williams. Late in the fourth, Trent Dilfer completes one of his 2 TD passes, hitting Carl Williams for a 31-yard strike. The Bucs beat the Cards 19-18. Arizona drops to 1-3. At Jack Kent Cooke Stadium, the Redskins upset the favorite Jacksonville Jaguars. Gus Frerotte threw 3 TDs, including 2 to Leslie Shepard. The Skins knocked the Jags from the ranks of the unbeaten, winning 24-12. Washington is 3-1. The Jags dropped to 3-1. At Three Rivers, the Steelers and Oilers gave the scoreboard operator a workout, combining for 61 points. Cordell Stewart slashed his way in for a pair of majors and hooked up with Mark Bruner for another. The Steelers outslugged the Oilers 37-24. And at Texas Stadium, the Cowboys played less than hospitable host to the winless Bears. Troy Aikman hits Anthony Miller, the catch and the touchdown for the boys. Later, the backbreaker, Deion Sanders, fields this punt at his own 17, then heads downfield, an 82-yard return for prime time. The boys look prime and ready after caging the Bears 27-3, improving to 3-1. Chicago drops to 0-5. I'm Claude Fagg. Here are the rest of the Sunday NFL scores.
And Nightbeat Sports continues after this short break. When we come back, Ryder Cup highlights. Europe wins again. Highlights after this. Stay with us. The Europeans are Ryder Cup champions again. A big 5-point lead heading into Sunday's final play. They held on to beat the U.S. in singles matches today. Constantino Rocca against Masters champion Tiger Woods. And Rocca with a great approach on number 1. He was 1-up on the Tiger. The U.S. down by 5 points heading into today's play. Charged back, Freddie Couples, number 5, firing right at the pin. It almost goes in, setting up an eagle to go 2-up on Ian Woosnam. But Bernard Langer here on 17 from the rough fires at the green. He finishes about 10 feet away from the cup. Langer missed the putt, but Brad Faxon forced to concede, and that gave Europe 14 points, enough to retain the cup they won 2 years ago at Oak Hill. They finished beating the U.S. 14.5 to 13.5. Quickly tonight, the NHL's waiver draft came and went very quietly for the Leafs today. No players acquired, none lost, although there were a few roster moves. This afternoon, the Leafs sent Jamie Baker and Matt Martin to the Chicago Wolves of the IHL, while forward Igor Korolev was signed to a new deal with the Leafs. For Toronto, the regular season opens Wednesday against the Capitals. Finally this evening, our regular Sunday night feature this week in harness racing.
Ontario Sire Stakes finals were headlined this week at harness tracks around Ontario. Elegant Image continued her domination of the 3-year-old filly trotters with a 2-length decision at Mohawk.
Through the lane, Elegant Image. Semi-Conscious has reclaimed second. On the inside, third is Strong and Fancy. Delmonica Spur fourth, but none of them will catch Elegant Image. She's won the gold again over Semi-Conscious and Strong and Fancy.
Elegant Image has now won over $795,000 in 2 seasons for owners Doug and Mark Hyatt and Steve Conran of Milton and Jerry Van Boekel and Doug Millard of Woodstock. The 2-year-old trotting colt division had produced 3 different winners in 3 previous gold finals. None of the 3 made this gold final.
And they turn for home. In the Sire Stakes gold final, King Cruiser. Up on the outside from the 3-wide lane is aggressively chasing Trade Balance. And here comes King Cruiser on the outside. Trade Balance on the inside. King Cruiser and Trade Balance to an all-out drive to the wire. And the decision goes to King Cruiser.
King Cruiser moved his bankroll up to $83,000 for his trainer, driver, and co-owner Rob Walker Jr. of Owen Sound, who shares ownership with his sister and brother-in-law Jennifer and Perry Segrist of Allenford. The $50,000 final for 3-year-old trotting fillies drew an enthusiastic crowd at Barrie Raceway Saturday night.
They turn down the lane. Hurley, Burley, PJ Freckles, Mystery Flight on the far outside as they trot down the lane. Hurley, Burley, PJ Freckles, Mystery Flight full of trot on the far outside. Hurley, Burley's all out to the wire. Hurley, Burley appears to hold on.
Hurley Burley, driven by Dave Wall, pushed her earnings over $57,500 on the year for owners Brian and Joanne Eady of Brantford and trainer co-owner Brad Maxwell of Ayr. Barrie Raceway will be the focal point again on Saturday night with a $100,000 2-year-old colt pace. The race will be simulcast across Ontario.
And I'm back. That's it for sports.
One final question. How is it the Jays can have last year's Cy Young winner and likely this year's Cy Young winner and still be as bad as they were?
They could not score runs. That was the problem. I think they scored fewer runs than any other team in the American League.
Yeah, let's get rid of Joe Carter, who drove in,
well, that's one of the reasons they fired their batting coach today, Willie Upshaw.
Okay, thanks, George. We're back with more in a moment. Stay with us.
Paul Henderson and some of the other stars from the September to Remember bringing back memories on the ice today. Andrea Case reports.
Here's another shot, right by the score! Henderson has scored for Canada!
25 years later, Paul Henderson still savors the goal.
Felt wonderful. Yeah, it was just probably it was a highlight of my whole athletic career. Gave Canada, I think, the victory in one of the greatest hockey series that we'd ever seen in this country up to that point. And I've been celebrating ever since for the last 25 years.
At Maple Leaf Gardens today, 800 lucky people skated with 7 heroes from the series of the century.
I think that they're the best. They're legends. They set hockey's example, and I like them.
Feel like a kid today.
The series pitted an all-star NHL team against the best the Soviet Union had to offer. Henderson says it was war. Goalie Vladislav Tretiak says the war is now over.
I have a lot of friends now. Before 1972, I don't have too many friends in Team Canada. Now everybody my friends because we play as a Grey.
Fans not only got to skate with Henderson, Serge Savard, Yvonne Cournoyer, Ron Ellis, Frank Mahovlich, and Bill White, they collected autographs, took pictures, and reminisced.
There was about 50 people in my room watching the game, and my beds were smashed to smithereens with people jumping on them and everything else.
Where was I in 1972? Well, like a lot of new Canadians, I was in another country, England to be exact, but I do recall when our family emigrated here in 1973, all the talk on the playground was of Henderson's goal and the series of the century. Andrea Case, CFTO News.
The word on the street is books and magazines are popular with both young and old. Thousands of people strolled through a maze of exhibits for the 8th annual Word on the Street Book and Magazine Fair. Queen Street was closed from Simcoe to Spadina Avenue to accommodate more than 180 exhibitors. On the Gap Kids stage, 2 of the country's youngest authors were introduced. Eliza King and Jessica Hedges Chu's work was published in a book called Get Writing, an anthology of writing by Canadian children. Eliza is 9 years old. Her story is called X and Mina in the King Dog's Palace.
I got the idea from a dream I had one night about 2 years ago, and I wrote it down and it sounded pretty interesting.
Jessica Hedges-Chu is from Baltimore, Ontario. She wrote An Athlete's Feelings.
It's the first thing I've ever had printed, but I've always written it, and yeah, I'm going to keep on writing for a while.
What do you want to do when you get a little bit older?
And we're back with more in a moment. Stay with us.
Updating the weekend's top stories, a funeral will be held Tuesday for Charlene Minkowski. The 23-year-old was pushed in front of an oncoming subway train on Friday. Minkowski's funeral will be held Tuesday morning at 10 at St. Maximilian Colby Parish on Corthra Road near Highway 403 in Mississauga. Herbert Chung faces 1 count of first-degree murder in connection with her death. Tax cuts are coming, promises Paul Martin, but when exactly, the finance minister won't say. Martin will say that federal budgets deal with that kind of issue, and the next budget isn't expected until February. A show of strength by Labour in North Bay, thousands gathered on the Premier's home turf Saturday to demonstrate against the Harris government. The space shuttle Atlantis has docked with the Mir Space Station. Atlantis has a new computer for the aging Mir, as well as batteries, plugs for holes, pressurized air tanks, fresh water, food, and other crucial supplies. In Italy, an unexpected double act as Bob Dylan joined Pope John Paul on stage in Bologna. More than 300,000 people attended the concert. Veteran newsman David Brinkley retired from television today with a final commentary on the ABC program that once bore his name. The 77-year-old veteran concluded with a quote from Shakespeare saying, "All's well that ends well." And all is definitely well in the Foran family. CFTO reporter Pat Foran and his wife Carol are the proud parents of 8-pound, 9-ounce Sarah Ann. The new addition will be a playmate for big sisters Lisa and Vanessa. All our best guys.
And that's Night Beat News for this Sunday. I'm Bill Hutchison.
And I'm Kate Wheeler. For Sharon, George, and all of us here at CFTO, thanks for watching. Good night.
This is CFTO TV, Channel 9, Toronto.